if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by PlayNow, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
And just like that, the Jets 2024-25 season comes to an end in Dallas in heartbreaking fashion in overtime as the Dallas Stars take the best-of-7 series in 6 games tonight, Ezzy. But of course, the focus more than anything is on Mark Scheifele and his family. We learned earlier today, after we had finished the Illegal Curve hockey show, maybe about half an hour after the news broke, courtesy of Jets GM Kevin Cheveldayoff, that Mark Scheifele lost his dad, Brad, last night. And so that, of course, is bigger than any loss of a hockey game. And so we should start the Illegal Curve post-game show with that news, of course, and our condolences to the entire Scheifele family, because I can't even imagine what he'd be going through. I don't want to imagine what he'd be going through. And for him to be able to try and be with his hockey family and kind of get through it in that way, you just all the there's no words. I'm lacking in words to describe what he's going through and to what it must have taken for him to make that decision. So I think we need to appropriately start this Illegal Curve post-game show with a note, like with our thoughts and prayers to the Scheifele family.
Absolutely. Our deepest condolences to Mark and his entire family and friends. Like you said, Dave, it's really, hard to comprehend the decision he would have to make whether or not he was going to play game 6, obviously a do or die game, right, for the Jets. And before we get into, the game-winning goal, which obviously was under terrible circumstances, you hate to see any Jet in the penalty box, but specifically Mark Scheifele. But that goal in the second period that got the Jets on the board, I don't know how many people got teary-eyed when that goal went in, but that was something extremely special. And that his dad, was looking down on his son and, smiling. And that was a very special moment. So I just wanted to get that in there. We'll obviously, break it down in more detail in the PlayNow game recap. But, the fact that he was able to score a goal the day after his dad died was just, incredible. I mean, that is just, you can't write anything better in a script, right? And, this obviously was, a back and forth game, right? Like Mason Appleton has a glorious chance to win the game for the Jets in the third period, and Jake Ottinger just makes an incredible save. Connor Hellebuyck, the save on Mikael Granlund, right, in the third period, the pad save, incredible. It was back and forth, 2 amazing teams. And, again, just before we get back into the game, Dave, there's obviously a lot of disappointed Jets fans out there, and many of which are watching us live right now. But this was a phenomenal season for the Jets. They won the division for the first time. They won the President's Trophy. They beat the Blues in 7 games in one of the most epic comebacks in NHL history. They went to 6 games with the Dallas Stars. They went to overtime in the 6th game with the Dallas Stars. Obviously, the ultimate goal, Dave, was to win the Stanley Cup. But just wanted to say, this was still a phenomenal season. I've loved being part of it. I've loved doing every single one of these 350 post-game shows, Dave. Obviously, again, not the result that Jets fans wanted, but I still think Jets fans can, be happy with a lot of what happened this season. And there's reasons to be optimistic, I think, about the future as well.
Absolutely. And we're seeing so many folks who are keeping the Scheifele family in their thoughts and minds and their prayers. And I'm sure that they would definitely appreciate that with these tough times ahead. With that said, this is, of course, the Illegal Curve. So good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all those joining us live, wherever you are on the interweb, good evening to you and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show, the final Illegal Curve post-game show of the 24-25 season. We've done quite a few of them, Ezzy. I think about 95, if my math my maritime math serves
I might
me
have
right.
I've been a little bit high on 350, Dave, but obviously I was being sarcastic.
You were a smidge high in 350, but it feels that way. But it was, I think, our 95th post-game show of the season, or this is our 95th. And we've loved every moment of it. And we've loved being with all of you every moment of it. And we'll, again, you're not done with the Illegal Curve crew just that easy, because of course we still have the Illegal Curve hockey show. We'll still be giving you plenty of coverage, and the illegalcurve.com will be covering the Jets, of course, towards the end of exit interview meetings and all that media availability. We'll have that on the website and our YouTube channel. So plenty more still to come, but this season is officially over. And Ezzy, I want to kind of echo your thoughts. I mean, now it's time for reflection, and we'll reflect on the game. We'll have plenty of time to do that. But for me, it is monumental that this team was able to do what they did. And there's going to be plenty of time to do an autopsy on this team, and we'll do it. Trust me, we'll be spending 2 hours every Saturday until, well, probably mid-June, we'll start focusing on the draft, but we will be talking about this team for the next, you can count at least 5 weeks, and doing sort of an analysis and some of the things that they did right and some of the things they did wrong. But one of the things that you have to focus on was just how, good this team played, and credit to Connor Hellebuyck. I thought he was excellent in this game. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty as to whether he was going to, how he would play on the road given everything. But I thought he was excellent in this game. And more importantly, over the stretch of the season, again, lots of individual accolades, and, Scott Arniel up for Coach of the Year, the team winning the President's Trophy. So
just a second, Dave, there's some people in the chat that are saying, and people in the chat, by the way, are entitled to say whatever they want, but some people are saying, that means nothing. I don't think so. And again, we're just giving our opinions here. It doesn't mean that what we say is gospel.
No.
But I mean, you go back to the beginning of the year, right? And when we didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, we obviously assumed that the Jets were going to be a playoff team, and we thought they would be a top 3 team in the Central Division. But I mean, you're a goal away from bringing this back to Winnipeg for Game 7, and most likely, I think, obviously it doesn't matter now, but I think they win that game if it comes back to Game 7. What were the Jets, 6-1 at home during the playoffs? I believe 6-1, 5-1, 6-1. I think 6-1. So I think the Jets win that game.
6-1.
6-1. So if they come back, you have to fact check me after I made that mistake on the pregame show by saying Nino Niederreiter scored the opening goal in Game 4 when it was really Game 1, right, Dave? So good on you for fact checking that in your head. But look, the goal is obviously to win the Stanley Cup. This team isn't when they're interviewed after the game, these guys aren't going to say, well, I mean, we were just happy to be here, and second round is pretty good. No, but when you look at the totality of the season and you zoom out, and like you said, Dave, in the coming days and the coming weeks, we're going to be reflecting on the season and dissecting every single player and every single line and special teams and goaltending and everything like that. But I still think that what I'm saying is I think the Jets can be very proud of the season they had. And let's be honest here, not having 44 out there for the majority of the game, or not the majority of the game, but a big portion of the game, including overtime. I mean, that's just devastating, right? Everybody has to play more. The D are tired. It's been a long series. You're 2 rounds deep into the playoffs now, right? So, I mean, that can't be understated. Not having your best defenseman out there. Not that you're going to use that as an excuse, Dave.
Yeah.
But it's tough. And this is a tough loss, and it stings. So I just want to echo what you said as well, because you were, mentioning the President's Trophy and everything like that. So I think, it's greatly disappointing. I'm not trying to minimize that.
Yeah.
But I still think that this has been overall a pretty successful season, if you ask me.
Well, and I think both things can be true. I think that you can be disappointed that the Jets are not advancing to the conference finals, and again, have not. Now they've got far, and we talked about that in this morning's show. But yeah, look, there's no question about it. I'm not trying to soften this for the Jets. I mean, again, I think that the moment is requiring some somberness based on what Mark Scheifele went through. But again, the team doesn't get let off the hook. I mean, ultimately, first of all, let's be realistic. It's a very good Dallas team. So nobody is surprised at what they were able to do.
The 3rd year in the row, they're in the West Finals.
That's right. And
third year in a row.
Yeah. So again, like I said, I just think that you have to look at it pragmatically and realize, like, listen, this was a um, both a good season and a disappointing season. So
you love to see that from Art Ross winner Jamie Ben here. For those listening on the podcast, we've got the comment up. Thanks for the $4.99, by the way. We'll put that towards the beer fund. Stars fan here. Great season, boys. Wishing the best for 55. That's what we like to see. We like to see classy Stars fans on here.
I have to say, most of the folks that, first of all, speaking of classy, again, we should mention Drew, who, for folks who are wondering, it's his parents' 50th anniversary, so that's why he's not on the show. But, Drew took note that, and it's not that Drew initiated this, but Drew kind of blew up on Twitter as a result. But, speaking of classy Stars fans and Mark Scheifele, folks on Reddit found out, they did some research to find what kind of charities that Mark Scheifele is associated with. Oh, here we go. Rick is mentioning it as well. But they tried to find out which ones he was connected to. And so they found that he was connected to Kids Sport Canada, but also the True North Fund. So they donated $55 to Mark Scheifele on behalf of Mark Scheifele. And I don't know ultimately how much money was raised, but it went really significant on social media, and that's what you love to see about that hockey community. Like, right. Jets fans wanted to win, Stars fans wanted to win. Ultimately, end of the day, this is a game. We love it. We focus on it. We literally make a living doing it. But the fact of the matter is that you have to, remove yourself sometimes from the emotional element of it. And you see that, at the end of the day, there's a humanity that is important to focus on. And what this, what happened today to Mark Scheifele and his family is bigger than any hockey game and bigger than, obviously the Stanley Cup is the goal. But for Stars fans to, of their own initiative, do that, it was a really classy move. And sure, you're going to get the jerks in all markets. Every market has jerks. So that's, to be expected. But this to me was like a really stand-up thing that Stars fans did of their own volition, I should say. Yep. And to pay tribute to Mark Scheifele and his dad, Brad, who like I said, are that family is dealing with, I can't even imagine. So like I said,
Stars fans turned out, Dave. That's what happened. Stars fans came up big, and I already had a lot of respect for Stars fans. I've been lucky enough to go see a game there. What was that, 6 years ago for our buddy Hartsy's bachelor party? We saw a Jets and Stars game. That was 2018, I believe. It's an incredible rink. They have incredible energy there. So I already had a ton of respect for Stars fans, but now I have a whole new other level of respect. And like you said, Dave, we already knew that the hockey community is great. It's not perfect.
Nope.
But people step up in the face of tragedy. And this was a horrible tragedy, like we said. And Mark Scheifele was able to play in tonight's game, and not only play a heck of a game, score a goal in the second period that put the Jets up 1-0. But I absolutely agree with you that we got to give Stars fans a ton of credit for stepping up for Mark.
Yeah, no, there's like I said, that to me is going to be the storyline that I focus on. That is, I think, more important than anything else, right? Ezzy, is that you like I said, you remove the hockey element of it, and we'll talk about that throughout the course of this broadcast. But I don't think there's any question in Ehlers We Trust. I mean, if Ehlers doesn't re-sign, then in Ehlers We Trust has to change their username, so they obviously are biased in that one. But
and no offense to In Ehlers We Trust, because he's obviously a loyal IC fan. I actually meant to, we've got over almost 500 people in the chat right now. I was trying to post a different comment there. I was actually trying to post this one from David Yuck, because we were talking obviously about 55 and Brad Scheifele. But yeah, I mean, that's something we'll be talking about in the coming weeks and months, Dave. Nikolai Ehlers, because he's going to get paid. He had a good playoffs, 5 goals in this series. I thought he was good again tonight. Obviously doesn't score, but he had some dangerous scoring chances. And if they're not able to re-sign him, that's obviously going to be a very difficult player to replace.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And again, that becomes a conversation for another day, of course. And we will continue our focus on the game that we watched tonight in Dallas. So as just before we get into the kind of the game recap, because there's only 3 goals to talk about, so we've got plenty of time. Just 15 minutes into the Illegal Curve post game show. I'm Dave Manuke. He's Ezzy Ginsburg. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Well, if you're chatting, that means you are subscribing because I hit that button. So you got to do it. So I don't mind that. But make sure you're subscribing. It always helps us. And leave a comment as well. But, just anything surprise you? I mean, again, we weren't sure. The Jets held an optional. And then when they took to the ice for the warm-up skate, were you expecting them to make any changes, or were you not surprised? Because that is something that we discussed on this morning's show.
No, I wasn't surprised, Dave, and I think you agreed with me for the same reasons, right? Mm-hmm. You won Game 5 in a big way, 4-0. Arguably the best game the Jets played in the playoffs, maybe all year long, considering the stakes, right? Mm-hmm. So I wasn't surprised. Maybe the one change is you bring in Colin Miller for Luke Shen. I just want to say as well, I thought Luke Shen, even though he struggled at times, Jets go down to 5D tonight. He was out there doing his thing, blocking shots. Obviously not a guy that you're expecting a ton of offense out of. Neil Pionk, I thought, was an absolute warrior tonight. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that, we've criticized. He's been criticized by others. Last year, obviously, went through, speaking of someone who's grieving, he went through the loss of one of his best friends last year. And that just shows you again, like, hockey is something that sometimes we get caught analyzing it and focusing on it in a vacuum, right? But you realize sometimes that, there's more to it. There's things that happen off the ice, right? But Pionk was excellent tonight. I thought the defense came up big. And look, if the Jets are able to kill off that penalty, and they almost killed it off, who knows what happens after that? And that's obviously going to be a big storyline here in the coming days. Josh Morrissey, and obviously we hope he's okay. We hope it's not
didn't look good.
No, and you start thinking, is that going to be a tear or something like that? It looked like it was knee, right, Dave?
Yeah.
So just awful, considering that he's one of the best defensemen in the league, and the Jets obviously could have used him, for the entirety of the game, but I thought the Jets were a little bit nervous in the first period. Mm-hmm. I think it took them, a good 7 or 8 minutes to register a shot on net. It was weird because Connor Rabchuk tweeted this out, but the shots were 2-2, like 12 minutes into the game. And you're thinking to yourself, like, this doesn't seem like there's only been 4 shots total in this game. But I thought Dallas was much better than the Jets in the first period, actually. I thought it took the Jets like a good 10 or 12 minutes to really get into the game. But Hellebuyck came up big. I remember there was that one shift late in the first period where the Stars seemed like they were in the Jet zone for 2 minutes. Remember Liam Bischel had that chance, and then Miro Heiskanen had a chance. Heiskanen was incredible. Like, regardless of what happens in the next round between Dallas and Edmonton, Heiskanen needs more recognition around the league for how good of a defenseman he is. Because obviously we hear a lot about Cale Makar. We hear a lot about Quinn Hughes. Adam Fox. I mean, obviously Josh Morrissey here in Winnipeg, but Heiskanen's incredible with his skating. I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, I mean, the first period didn't go well, but then the second period was all Jets. I forget what the shots were. I'd have to look it up, but I think 10-1 or something like that. Like, the Jets stepped up big time in the second period. Cole Perfetti had a really good scoring chance. Obviously, Scheifele scores the go-ahead goal. And then in the third period, then I think Dallas started to take it over a little bit. You could argue that it was, fairly even period, but
not to start. That's for sure. We'll get into it.
No, not to start, but again, at the end of the day, if the Jets would have lost the series in 5 games and not played well in Winnipeg, I think we're having a different conversation, Dave. Yeah. And we're saying this is disappointing. The Jets literally left it all on the ice. I felt like tonight.
Would you say they leave it all on the line? Leave it on the line?
I really hope we never have to hear that. Can we agree? Let's get the chat in here. Was that not the most annoying commercial ever?
I will say it was effective, though, because I found myself just kind of randomly being like, leave it all on the line. I'm like, why am I thinking that? And then I realized because of that commercial.
They can stop airing that Scotiabank commercial as well, that you're richer than you think commercial. Like I'm a BMO guy, so
well, more importantly, if you're dealing with a bank, you're probably not richer.
yeah, exactly. Every time
Like,
that commercial comes on, it's like I'm not richer. Stop telling me I'm richer than I think. I know I'm not rich.
It's like, oh, cool.
I mean,
more banking fees. Great, thanks, guys.
I feel rich because I do the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, and I get to spend a lot of time with hundreds of people in the chat, and I'm a close personal friend of Dave M. So I feel like a rich, wealthy man. Not so much in the bank account, but there's other ways to feel rich. But we're getting a little sidetracked here. But I mean, look, this again, it comes back.
Ezzy, it's the last Illegal Curve post game show of the season. We can do whatever we want, and no Drew. There's whatever we want.
And we're not on terrestrial radio anymore, so we can literally do whatever we want. We can swear if we want, even though we'll try to keep it classy in case there's any youngsters watching. Even though it's 10:30 at night, so I don't think there's going to be too many people that are that young watching right now. But if Mason Appleton scores there, game's over, right? So, Dadonov hit the post, right, in the third period as well. I think it was Dadonov, right, that hit the post, if I'm not mistaken.
There were a bunch of, I think Sagan hit the crossbar at one point. There were a lot of chances that, went askew, if you will. But that's just the nature of the beast. That's the nature of hockey. And hey, that's
of course, Dave, sorry to cut you off. One of our favorites here on the Illegal Curve post-game show, T. Conapoli, stepping up big with a $55. We'll make sure that, by the way, that gets to one of the charities. Either we'll give it to Kid Sport or we'll give it to the True North Youth Foundation. So T. Conapoli, you're an absolute beauty.
Well, and I think I think T. Conapoli may have lost his father. I thought I saw that in on our Facebook group. So T. Cona, I hope I didn't get that wrong. Because I actually hope I am wrong, because I don't want that to be right in that regard. But I could have sworn I saw you write that in the thing. If that's the case, our condolences go to you as well. But and we appreciate that, and we'll make sure, as he says, that we're going to get that one too. But anyways, it was Matt saying I'm correct. Okay, well, Ticona, so our condolences. Ticona Pauly lost his father as well, and so that's it's been a tough week for folks, and my condolences and our hearts go out to you, and obviously to the Scheifele family and to anyone else who's dealing with loss. But I will try and make a slow transition now to the actual game recap as we break things down here. Right, Ezzy?
Yeah, Bennett is saying that the Oilers are going to pound the Stars. We appreciate the $2. I don't know. I mean, the Oilers were pretty damn impressive in that second round against Vegas. I think this is going to be another 6 or 7 gamer. And obviously, Dallas is trying to get back to the Stanley Cup final. Oilers are trying to get back to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, it's I don't know if they're going to pound the Stars, but I wouldn't.
The look in Connor McDavid's eyes is a man possessed right now, so I would not bet against Connor McDavid.
I think it's a coin flip series, Dave. I really do.
I'd still go Oilers, but let's save that analysis, our pedantic analysis, for when we have nothing to talk about.
This isn't Oilers lunch.
Not Oilers lunch. This is actually the Illegal Curve post-game show brought to you by our friends at PlayNow.
The PlayNow game recap.
Learn to bet with PlayNow, the official betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Sign up and get up to $250 in bonus bets. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. All right, as he's already got Dietermeister's comment up, but we're getting into it here. So as we already talked about it, the Jets start off the game, and I thought they looked a little tentative. And I thought the Stars came out thinking that, listen, we got to take advantage. It's our building. We got the home crowd into it, and the Jets looked like a team that didn't want to make a mistake, but they looked like they were a little bit slow, I thought. And I thought Dallas took advantage of it. But most importantly, I actually thought the most important thing to me was that Connor Hellebuyck looked like he was dialed in. He made a couple of early stops of not the easiest variety. And I thought that was a good way for him to kind of get engaged early in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. You remember that turnover, I don't know how many seconds into the game. I think it was in the first minute. Mikko Rantanen had the chance. And Hellebuyck had to make a save, and that's why it was weird, like we said earlier, that the shots were 2-2 like midway through the game, because
they're also moving up and down. It was like 2-0, then it was like 1-0, then it was 2-0, then it was 2-1, then it was 2. It was very bizarre.
The person in control of the shots for Sportsman that might have been drinking, I'm not sure, but and then I had in my notes here, Evgeny Dadonov had a wraparound chance where Hellebuyck had to be sharp. Cole Perfetti early on in the game had a scoring chance to the left of Ottinger. Pionk passed it to him. So like there were some chances both ways. The shot volume might have not been high. I think the shot attempts were like 21-10 or something like that.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that, as because they adjusted them. Originally, it was, I had it in my notes as 23-13 in favor of Dallas.
It's 27-12 according to our friends at Natural Stat Trick.
Well, and then but it's funny because on Sportsnet they changed it again to 27-13. So then it was, then it changed again.
Well, it's like you said though, like how do you go from 21 to 27? Like that's a big jump, right? Like, that just shows you kind of, again, we bring up the shot attempts. We're not going to, be a completely advanced stats show, but I think it shows you that, the flow of play, and it's important to mention that Dallas was missing the net a lot, like especially on their point shots. That's what I found, and that's why I think it was so bizarre that you had 27 shot attempts and they were only credited with 6 goals. So I mean, the obvious answer to that is a lot of shots were missing the net, right? So it was a little bit back and forth, but the main thing is that Connor Hellebuyck kept them in the first period. Like, to me, that game was 0-0 because of Connor Hellebuyck. And then the Jets, obviously, as you tweeted out on X, Dave, I mean, obviously the boys stepped it up in the second period because they came out with a lot of fire, a lot of speed. I agree with you. They weren't generating enough. They looked a little bit slow. They looked on their heels. Dallas was dictating the pace of play, I thought, for the majority of that first period. But I think the Jets realized that they needed to play better, and they did in the second.
I don't think there's any question about that, Ezzy, but you are right. I mean, look, my assessment watching that game, a couple of instances, and I believe the crowd probably agreed with me, or the folks would probably agree with me. There are a couple of times when I was like, what is this team doing? Like, to start the third period, I thought they just looked discombobulated, and maybe they were upset with obviously losing Josh Morrissey, and maybe they learned something about, the level of his injury. But and the fourth line, I don't know what about the fourth line has changed, but I did not like the fourth line again. And there was one shift early in the game, Ezzy, when I was like, you got the fourth line and the third pairing out, and they got hemmed for a while. So I didn't love the composition of the fourth line today. Morgan Barron got a little bit better, had some chances, but they just didn't seem connected in that first period. And maybe there was a hesitancy based on the fact that they were nervous about what was going on with the enormity of the game, and one mistake ends up in the back of your net, and you're playing from a deficit, which is not something these guys wanted to do. It was one of the most important things was to get the opening goal of the game, and sure enough, they do just that. And it couldn't have been more appropriate, who of course gets it, but it's also everything that they did. It was actually, I thought it was kind of weird that they kept saying there were no penalties until Mark Scheifele's, because there actually was a penalty. There was a delayed penalty. So they're like, oh, they didn't call a penalty. I'm like, well, no, they called a penalty. They just never went through it because the Jets scored.
Yeah, but it doesn't show up in the box score.
I understand, but it was just a bizarre thing to say that the refs never called a penalty, because they called a penalty.
That's true. You're right. I mean, if we're being technical, yes, there was a penalty called. It just the player obviously didn't go to the penalty box because Scheifele scored. But you're right. There was a penalty called. It was high sticking, I believe, right?
Yeah, but I just thought I mean, again, it's not a huge deal. It's not a big quibble. I just thought it was kind of funny that they kept saying, well, they haven't called a penalty. I'm like, well, they did, but they just scored on the ensuing opportunity. But Nikolai Ehlers, he takes the puck in. Now, it's funny, as on the panel, they said that they thought Ehlers was trying to get it to Scheifele because it was Scheifele. But I mean, I'm inclined to think that he was looking back to see A, where the Stars defenseman was, and B, if they were going to spread out, if it was worth a drop pass as opposed to, going in and shooting it. It was almost like Scheifele's like, no, go. And then, they get that opportunity, but good on them. You're right.
Nick Ehlers, I mean, it's so funny, Dave, right? Like, we always talk about his speed and how ridiculously skilled he is, right?
Yeah.
I just love that a guy's on a breakaway and he looks behind him. Like, I always find that funny for the simple reason that you have to be a ridiculous hockey player to do that, right? Like, if I'm ever on a breakaway, I'm sweating bullets and I'm just like, okay, don't miss the net. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nikolai Ehlers he's got so much time. He's looking behind himself. He's making a sandwich.
Taxes, for God's sakes.
Exactly. So I just found that funny, but yeah, I mean, so it starts off with, obviously Ottinger making a big save on Ehlers on the breakaway.
Yeah.
But then Mark Scheifele winning a puck battle in the corner. I think it was Jason Robertson, if I'm not mistaken, that he wins the puck battle with. And then Gabe Vilardi wins another puck battle, gets it back to Kyle Connor, who puts it on net, and then Scheifele buries the rebound. And again, this is a different type of goal, Dave. Like you mentioned, we've done, do you say 95 post-game shows this year? Is that how many we've done?
Yeah.
I guess 82 plus 13, right? That's incredible. A little Barry Horowitz pat on the back for us for doing 95 post-game shows. No, but in all honesty, if I can get serious here for a second, I mean, I got goosebumps and I got teary-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too emotional here, but I mean, maybe it's because I've lost a parent when I was young.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's part of it, but just for him to play in this game, first of all, is incredible.
Yeah.
But for him to lay it on the line, so to speak, and then score a goal, the game's first goal, the go-ahead goal. I mean, that's just, again, like, there's no words really for that. I mean, it made everybody so happy. You saw on social media, like, everybody was talking about it. Like people were saying things like, obviously Mark Scheifele was going to score, considering what happened and things of that nature, right? So, I mean, just stuff like that, Dave. Again, I know the Jets lost the game, but you have to put things into perspective. And, that was just awesome for Mark and his family, period.
Well, and somewhat apropos as is the fact that not only did he score and Kyle Connor assisted it, but the two of them now have 49 points. Why is that significant? Well, they're going to be tied as the leaders for the Jets in playoff points. But not only are they tied, but they're tied with Dale Hawerchuk. So seems appropriate that Mark Scheifele ties Dale Hawerchuk for points, for the most playoff points for a Winnipeg-based NHL franchise. With 49. And so now
it just shows you like life is much, much bigger than hockey, right?
Absolutely.
Like there's other things at play here. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Now I will say that Ducky was able to get his 49 points in 38 playoff games for the Winnipeg Jets, whereas Mark Scheifele got his 49 points in 53 games. Kyle Connor, of course, he's played 58 games. So he has 49 points as well. But it's just amazing. I mean, you are right. Like, look, we're trying to just watch this as observers of the sport, and it's hard to remove the emotional element when something like that happens. Something so poetic that a guy who's going through it, and everybody in the hockey world. Again, even I saw so many people say, "I'm not a Jets fan, but I'm pulling for the Jets tonight." I'm pulling for Mark Scheifele tonight. So you knew that there would be that kind of eruption, that the Jets nation and also people who are just hockey, who are passionate about hockey, would be ecstatic to see him score. And it really it seemed almost, I hate to use the word surreal, but it did seem a bit surreal that Mark Scheifele is the one who opens up the score. So the scoring in this game and breaks that scoreless tie. And yeah, look, the Jets were all over the Stars. And I kind of joked on, as you said, on X, and I never call it X, on Twitter, sorry. And what did they do? They came out. I didn't know what Scott Arniel said to them in the first intermission, but they had a 9-1 shot edge at the midpoint of the second period. And given the way that the first period had gone, what an impressive sort of turnaround from Winnipeg. Now, it wasn't going to last that much longer, but I just thought, this was the bounce back. You were nervous in that first period. Connor Hellebuyck was excellent. So it's 0-0. And I really thought, like, if the Jets took it to 0-0 after 20, similar to what we saw with Toronto and Florida. And I know that was 0-0 throughout the game until it got to OT, but I just thought that the Jets would be in good stead because it meant they rode out the sort of early wave that I thought that the Dallas Stars would have. And yet here they go. And then they start one of their own where they get going and kind of rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling towards, most of the play was going towards that Dallas end, at least at the midpoint. So things were looking up, but again, it's just a 1-goal lead, and the Jets certainly had chances, right, Ezzy? There were a lot of chances that they could have had to, I guess, extend their lead. They don't, and it hurts them because Sam Steele, who, if you recall correctly, I want to say about 13 hours ago, maybe a little bit longer, you were asking Mike Heika about Sam Steele and his play.
I've always been I realize this is a Jets show. I've always been a big fan of Sam Steele. Obviously, Dave, we don't go to the drafts anymore. But between 2011 and 2017, we went almost every year, right? 2012, I think it was in Pittsburgh, we didn't go, but in 2016, when it was in Buffalo, you and I were there, and I remember thinking, like, he goes 30th overall to Anaheim. I just remember thinking, like, he probably could have gone a lot higher than that. Mm-hmm. And he's turned out to be just a really good hockey player. Like, yeah, he's a bottom six guy at the NHL level, but he's a good bottom six guy. And I just think the reason why I asked Mike Heika about him, I just think he's been really noticeable out there with his speed and out there on the PK. And, he finally gets his first goal of the playoffs. And like you said, the Jets just absolutely dominated the first half of that first period, but then Dallas has their pushback. Mm-hmm. That's the way this series has been, right? Like, it was a lot different than the Blues-Jets series where, the Jets dominated at home, the Blues dominated on the road. I mean, obviously Dallas, I think we'd agree Game 4 was a pretty dominant win by the Stars at home. But for the most part, I mean, these games were
Game 3, I think you mean. Game 3.
Game 3, sorry.
Yeah.
Game 3 was the goal that was allowed by Vic, right? Sorry, Game 4. Game 4 is the one I meant that I think you would say the Dallas Stars dominate, because even game 3, you remember, like, the Jets were right in it. It was a tie game, and so I just wanted to mention that this game was, this series, like, it was a close series. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, again, the Jets score one goal and one more goal, and it's going back to Game 7. And I still think, I don't care what anybody says, the Jets win that game if it goes back to Game 7. The Canada Life Center crowd and everybody out at the Whiteout Street Party was not allowing the Jets to lose that Game 7. But yeah, just back to the Steele goal. I mean, he's a talented player, and it starts off with Thomas Harley bringing the puck into the zone, and Sam Steele is a guy that he's got a lot of talent. He's picks up the rebound and deposits it. I'll mention it again if you weren't listening to the Saturday morning show, but Steele, even though he's a fourth line guy, 130 points for the Regina Pats in the WHL. I always give Dave M a hard time for bringing up Colby Barlow's point totals, but I mean, it shows you that these guys were big time players at the junior level, right? Like, so sometimes it doesn't translate to the NHL, right, Dave? And Sam Steele isn't putting up 90 points a year, but I mean, you got to put it into perspective. And I think you'd agree that, Connor Hellebuyck, this isn't really one that, he has a lot of chance. You can say that maybe, he gives up a little bit, too much of a rebound. I think it was a rebound. I don't even know if the shot got through, to be honest with you, but I mean, it pops out to Sam Steele, and he's Johnny on the spot, and he puts it in. Was it blocked, Dave? I thought he made the save.
I thought he made the save. I think it popped. I thought Nemestikov could have had a chance to clear it, but
it's hard even to tell on the replay. Like, I'm watching the replay here on one of my screens. Mm-hmm. The shot does get through. So
he makes the initial shot save. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's unfortunate. Like, Nikolai Ehlers tries his little soccer kick to prevent that one them from getting in. But yeah, he makes the initial save on, I think it was Harley who takes the shot.
Yeah, it was Harley.
It pops out, but the problem for the Jets is it pops out not to Vlad Nemestikov or anybody else wearing a white jersey. It pops out to Sam Steele, who comes in and rips it.
And look, it's like, we always obviously analyze what the goalie does on these goals, like whether it's Hellebuyck or Ottinger. It's a hard rebound to control, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? Like, you know hockey really well too, Dave. Like, the ones where the goalie kind of Hellebuyck awkwardly handles it, it's kind of going like a kind of high chest, right?
Yeah.
And that's one that it's tough for him to redirect that into the corner. So again, you could complain a little bit. Look, I don't think many people are going to be complaining about Hellebuyck's goaltending in this game. Like, Hellebuyck was excellent. We already talked about the first period. Hellebuyck, what were the high danger chances? I want to say they were 8-1. I'd have to check in natural stat trick here, Dave, to back it up. But yeah, the high danger chances, 8-0.
Yeah.
8-0 were the high danger chances. So Hellebuyck was really good in the first period, and I thought he was good for the majority of the game. We talked about that save he made on Mikael Granlund, the pad save in the third period. That one stands out to me. Hellebuyck didn't play well on the road during these playoffs. That's a fact. But Hellebuyck came up big when it mattered most. He came up big in Game 7 in overtime. He came up big twice at home, 2 shutouts at home. So all the Hellebuyck naysayers, obviously, people can be critical of Hellebuyck and say, he wasn't good in this game or he wasn't good in that game. But to me, he still stepped up when it mattered most, including tonight.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the Sportsman had a stat, high glove, he was beaten 5 times, high blocker 4 times, 5-hole twice, low glove 0, and low blocker once. So it's just interesting. It's probably something he's going to work on. I would imagine.
What, Dave? Sorry.
Well,
here he is.
Wow.
Here he is. The man, the myth, the legend.
Well,
you guys didn't think you could get through this entire thing without me, did you?
No, I've been slow playing this whole show until you got here, Mr.
What do you got there, Drew? A little seltzer?
It's a little Sprite. I'm very thirsty.
Okay. Well, but before Drew gets in here, Drew, we
finish. I'm not interrupting. Finish whatever you guys were saying.
No, we're going to start right from the beginning. No. The only thing I wanted to mention, because this news just came through, is that Scott Arniel indicated that Josh Morrissey's injury is, quote, not good. This is courtesy of our friend Murat. Going to need to get back to Winnipeg to know more. So not a surprise based on the reaction from 44 on the bench. But, that's kind of the updated. Sounds like that he would not have been available for the Jets, even had they won this game, or maybe even into the next round, if they would have been able to make it that far.
Yeah, I saw that as I was driving home from.
How'd you see it while you're driving, Drew?
Oh, Laura was driving. I was in the passenger seat. I was being very safe. Don't worry about that. But good evening to everybody. I apologize for being delayed, as I mentioned on this morning's Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Hell of a day. But as I was saying on this morning's Illegal Curve Hockey Show, it was my parents' 50th wedding anniversary tonight. So we were celebrating
I
that.
I told everybody that's why you're not here.
I know you did. I just want to rehash it. I just want to make mention of it. I mean,
I didn't want to mention you at all, Drew, but Dave was like, we should probably mention something.
Exactly. It's game. What is this? What regular season? What post game is this, Dave? Is this post game number 95?
95.
Okay, 95 post.
We almost made it to 100. Drew.
You can tell based on the rings on my eyes right now how tired I am.
So post game number 95, and the emotions of today are just sort of wild, and obviously the news came out just after.
Wait a second, are you about to give a soliloquy in the middle of our game recap?
I don't know what you guys are talking about. So you guys finish the game recap.
And I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Give your soliloquy. By the way, I did give you credit for mentioning the Stars Reddit and how it went super viral. I gave you that credit on the show.
Thank you.
In case you and Lauren weren't listening while you were driving home. So
the kids were exhausted. I mean, I got the kids were at their end. They partied hard, and then they were ready to crash in the car ride home.
All right. So anyway, so you can.
I was just saying. I mean, just the emotions of today. I can't even imagine. I know how emotional it was for everybody on the outside. With the news from earlier today, and then the announcement that Mark, I'm not sure what you guys are doing to the screen there, but
I just feel like this is time for you to do a soliloquy.
You don't need to put a spotlight on me, because I don't have anything scripted.
Let's do this.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything ready to go. I'm just doing this off the cuff. But I can't help but think about how this was less about the outcome of tonight's hockey game. Obviously, that's important to a lot of people, but it sort of really did get put into perspective. The emotion you saw at the end of the game, the emotion you saw all game long, the emotion you've heard post-game from both teams, and the class that has been demonstrated throughout the hockey world today sort of just reminds everybody that what they do on the ice is a game. And sometimes there's things that cross the line, and sometimes there's things that are going to cause some lingering resentment. But you saw Scheifele and Jamie Benn embrace each other in the handshake line. I mean, it was 2 days ago that Jamie Benn hit Mark Scheifele with in the face and hurt his face. And
sucker punch, Drew. Call it what it was.
A sucker punch, absolutely. And that's just the humanity of it all after, when the game was put into perspective, and you saw the humanity and the emotion of two men, who've given it all. And then of course Mark loses his dad. You saw that's what I'm struck with tonight. And I know I'm not doing a great job explaining it, and it's been an emotional day all around. You celebrate your parents' 50th anniversary. There's emotions there as well.
Drew, did you give a speech, by the way?
I did give a speech. Yes,
Nice.
I did. The kids spoke, and Laura spoke, and I gave a speech. So it was, you just see, so many people at this anniversary came up to me and said, we don't get together enough to celebrate. People don't get enough, you're so busy with life that you sort of forget about the little moments and celebrating those little moments. And so tonight was an opportunity to celebrate a little moment of my parents. And that was terrific, especially because, you never know when the other shoe is going to drop. You never know when something like what's going to happen to Mark. Happens to everybody. It happens to everybody before you know it. Mark is in the spotlight because he's a hockey player and he plays for the Jets, and it was Game 6 tonight and everything else along those lines. So you see that. So it just sort of gave a little bit of perspective of celebrating when you can, and the small things in life, embrace them. And as I was driving home and talking to the kids about the Jets season and everything, and I don't know if you guys have touched on this yet, so if I'm rehashing old territory, I apologize. But Erin, my daughter, was saying, I'm upset that that this Jets season is over. And I said, yeah, sweetie, totally legitimate. Get that. Lots of people are upset by that. But consider the wins that the Jets have had this year. Not necessarily the one-off wins, but those are fun too. But all the things that they've accomplished. The great start to the season, the President's Trophy. So yes, you don't win the Stanley Cup at the end of the day. But life is too short to focus on the negatives. And we do that a lot in sports. Your life is too short to focus on the parts where you don't succeed. So, yeah, they fall short. Yeah, losing in the second round in the 6th game is a little bit maybe of a disappointment. Totally get that. But all the good things that came out of today and that came out of this year, I think just sort of crystallize that you need to focus on those, especially now that the season's over and you can sort of get away from the immediacy of it all. And that, to me, given everything going on today, personally with the Jets, with the organization, with the Dallas Stars organization, I think just as a reminder to everybody that it's more than just about the wins and the losses. Yes, the Jets lost tonight's game, but frankly, the Jets, I think, are winners tonight, and the organization are winners tonight. Season's over, yes, no question. But everything else and the humanity they showed and the community that they've developed, that makes them winners in my book. So I do apologize for hijacking the show.
I think that's well said, Drew. Like I think, it was a couple months ago, I think, that you asked Dave and I, what is going to be an acceptable finish to the season, or put another way, you said, how far do the Jets have to go for this to be a successful season? And I think Dave and I both said conference final.
Yeah, I think I said this. I think I agree.
And I think you also said conference final, or if they go deep into the second round. Well, going to overtime in Game 6 is going deep into the second round, right? So I think if the Jets go out meekly in Game 5 at home and have a stinker, then I think we're having a completely different conversation. But what did the Jets do in Game 5? They had arguably their best game of the entire season, winning 4-0 and dominating the Stars in every aspect of the game. And then tonight, again, we all saw it, Mason Appleton, again, and we're not going to pile on Mason Appleton here. He didn't score a goal in these playoffs. I think he had 7 assists. I thought he was fine. It remains to be seen if Appleton's going to be re-signed because he's a pending UFA. I mean, these are conversations we'll have on the Saturday morning show. Yeah, but the fact that the Jets, look, the Manitoba Miracle was one of the best moments in Jets 1.0 or 2.0 history. And again, we're not going to raise banners for winning one round, but let's be clear here. The Dallas Stars are a hell of a hockey team.
Well, what are you going to remember from this year? When we sit back and we think about it, when this game is in the rearview mirror, what are you going to remember from this year? Are you going to remember that the Jets lost in the 6th game of the second round, or are you going to remember the start to the season?
Yeah, 15-1, you're definitely going to remember.
Are you going to remember the fact that they won the President's Trophy? Are you going to remember the Manitoba Miracle, something that I think everyone's going to remember forever? So at the end of the season, only one team raises the Stanley Cup. And it's a damn hard trophy to win, just like all trophies in all sports are damn hard to win. And at the end of the year, yeah, you could look at it that 31 teams are losers or 31 teams are going home disappointed. or you can look at the little things that are going to be indelible memories for years to come. And I think that the number of memories that the Jets have created and the number of things that, we're going to go back 20 years from now, maybe, if we're still doing this show, and God help us if we are. Dave's nodding his head. We're not going anywhere.
I thought you were about... Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to remember those things. And they didn't just do one thing like that this year. They did multiple things like that. You remember when Solani broke Bossy's record? We all do. Do you remember much else from that year? Yeah, he got 76 goals. But you remember that one thing. You remember Dave Elliot's overtime double OT winner. That season ended in disappointment as well. But those indelible memories, the ones that stick in your brain, the ones that you can recite 10 years after the fact as if it's happening right in front of your eyes, those are the things that I think you can cherish. And the Jets gave the people of Winnipeg, the fans of the team, and themselves, they gave us multiple memories like that this season. And that doesn't happen every year. So take those memories, embrace those memories. And, Mark losing his dad today gives the perspective, those are the things you got to remember and hold on to. Forget about how it ultimately ended, and maybe they ultimately fell short of what we said was the minimum standard for a successful year. As far as I'm concerned, it's a successful year. As far as I'm concerned, going to the deep in the second round, losing in 6 games to a very respectable opponent, I don't think the Jets cheated us out of anything this season.
No.
And the players and them all and the fans and everybody deserve kudos for a memorable season. At
the end of the day, Drew, the Jets took a step forward this year, right? Like, not just getting to the second round. They obviously lost. We've spent a lot of time talking about that over the last few years, losing in the first round 2 years in a row. But it's not just that. You can see the progress that Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor have made on both sides of the puck, for example. They both had career years. And yes, you mentioned the President's Trophy. The Jets have never done that before. And I think that's why this season was ultimately a success. Even though you didn't win the Stanley Cup, I think you grew as a team, right, Dave? Mm-hmm. And I think that's if it's still disappointing. I know there's a lot of Jets fans that are still very disappointed that the Jets lost tonight.
And they're entitled to be.
And they're entitled. I mean, at the end of the day, this team talked Stanley Cup all year long, right? And a good team should do that. It's not just the Jets that do that. It's the Stars. It's the Oilers. It's the Golden Knights. It's the Hurricanes. There's a lot of teams that, they're not just saying, hopefully we get into the playoffs and maybe win a round or two. No, the good teams, the excellent teams, they strive for the Stanley Cup. So I get that, they ultimately didn't reach their goal, but they took major steps forward. And there's always next year, guys. The Jets are going to have the bulk of their core back next year. Yeah, Nick Ehlers is a big one, but let's let time sort that out, and we'll see what happens there. But I agree with you, Drew. I think that ultimately this season was a success for a variety of reasons.
The humanity displayed is, I think, at the top of the list. I really do. I mean, it's a game of wins and losses. It's a game where you forget about the human side of things. But then you watch, everything that happened. You watch the emotion that was displayed. I mean, I'm looking at Adam Lowry in his post-game comments right here, and he's tearing up because, your brother loses your father or loses their father, and then he decides that he wants to fight with you still. That's a human moment.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of human moments that were on display this season for this team, where I would argue that the organization has been lacking in that humanity a little bit. They've been a little bit, bottom line driven, not ruthless and cutthroat.
And you're not talking about from a financial perspective, obviously.
I'm just talking in general that this is a year where I felt everybody, that the community and the organization and the players embraced one another in a manner that is different than we've seen in other years.
I would agree with that.
Yes, they've made the playoffs before, of course. Yes, they've had success before, but there was something, even in defeat, there was something special about this season that I don't think comes along every year. And quite possibly might not come along even in a Stanley Cup winning year. There was just something more human about this organization, about this team, and about their interactions with the city of Winnipeg that I thought made it a very special year.
Yeah, I think you're right, Drew. I think that there was a lot of things that it's funny, like it's the last post-game show of the season. So, we've kind of cut ourselves off in the middle of doing an actual game recap, but everybody watched the game. So they don't really need us to do this game recap specifically.
What do you mean they lost? We just finding out now.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
We covered 2 of the 3 goals. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, that for us, that's actually excellent. It's a higher percentage than we normally get through at this point before we deviate to some other topic. I will say that much, but no,
usually we'd be at this point, we'd be talking about like what foods that Dave hasn't tried yet. Like why hasn't Dave tried a pierogi yet? He lives in Manitoba.
I did try a pierogi this year.
There was lasagna served at the dinner tonight. At the anniversary dinner, there was lasagna served.
Oh, and I imagine, Drew, you were all over that. Drew's like Garfield. He loves that lasagna.
Well, I don't know. There's no lasagna stains on his shirt, so I'm not so sure he did eat the lasagna there.
I brought 3 or 4 changes just in case.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to have maybe the Kenny Wee bib.
That's more shirts than I brought to your wedding in Kentucky, Drew.
Anyways, so look, I would agree. I think there's a lot of things, and like I was saying before, and I said this earlier, Drew, you might not have been on the show, but I said both things can be right. Yeah. You can be very pleased with how the season went. You can be very disappointed with how the season went. And I think with good reason. I think that this team had a chance to be a Stanley Cup contender. There's no question. Or they were a Stanley Cup contender. They were a team that could have won a Stanley Cup. Why? Because if you look at the other 8 teams, the other 7 teams that were in their respective second rounds, I think the Jets could have beaten any of them. I think they would have had an excellent series with the Oilers. I love the Oilers. I'm telling you right now, like we've been on the Oilers train now since we're on record as thinking that the Oilers were going to be back in the Stanley Cup Finals this year. So no surprise based on, like I said, I think Connor McDavid is going to will his team to wherever he wants them to go, and they're getting the secondary scoring they need. But look, there's a lot of folks who are going to be sitting there wondering what could have been if you would have, gotten a second line center. And again, like I said, we're going to have plenty of time for those discussions over the course of the next 5 weeks as we bring you up to the next time where we get excited about the Hope Springs Eternal, because we start turning our focus to the draft. But right now, of course, we're focused on what happened this.
I almost forgot that the Jets have a first-round pick.
They do have a first-round pick.
It's funny. I was thinking that the other day. I was reading through somebody's mock draft. I'm like, the Jets? Oh yeah, they still have that first-round pick.
Like in previous years, Drew. Like back in those lean years when the Jets weren't making the playoffs, like we would have already been like starting our draft previews.
Oh,
like
we would have been delving deep into third-round sleepers that the Jets might be interested in or something. After they traded a depth forward for a third round draft pick at the deadline or something as part of a fire sale. There's no question we would have been done that. But I'm feeling wistful, I would say, after 95 of these games.
Sound wistful, actually.
I do. I feel wistful. I do, and so that's why.
Are you going to blow the whistle though? That's what I want to know.
I'm not going to blow a whistle. I don't have a whistle with me, but I think we might have a whistle.
Like that one, Dave. I know Dave didn't give me a laugh, but I know Dave appreciates that one.
I was trying to think of a song. Isn't there like blow?
Who am I too short? That's who sings "Blow the Whistle."
There you go.
Okay, good to know. But
Drew should know that. You go to all these hip hop concerts.
I do. I'm a complete and total poser when I'm at them, though. I'm the first to admit that. I am feeling wistful, Dave. I just think it's the culmination of everything. That it's just sort of. I want to not focus on the loss, and I want to not focus on the end of the season. The fact that the Jets won't play any more games, in this NHL season. I just want to take the opportunity to consider the bigger picture and consider everything else beyond strictly the scoreboard at the end of the game. And, today I think really, really helps put that into perspective, I think, is what happened.
No, absolutely.
That was, when we had the game on at the anniversary party, just because clearly there was a lot of demand for that.
And also, if you were going to do the post-game show, it would be a demand of mine and Ezzy's that you actually watch the game.
Hopefully everybody at that anniversary show is watching the post-game show now.
Well, I think most of them, they all wondered how I was going to do both. There's many people who said, how are you going to do both? I said, don't worry. I'm right now, I'm at the anniversary party. I'm not leaving the anniversary party early to get home for the post-game show. But just, when Scheifele scored, I mean, I was talking to somebody before the game, and I was talking about Brett Favre. Now, Brett Favre, before he became a welfare cheat for the state of Mississippi, he played the night, I think it was the night after that his dad passed away.
Yeah.
This is when he was with the Green Bay Packers. He played on Monday Night Football against the then probably Oakland Raiders. They would have been the Oakland Raiders at that point in time. And he threw for 4 touchdowns and 399 yards. And I remember thinking about that, when considering when I saw that Mark was playing tonight, and then he scored that goal. And I mean, man, he's in the penalty box when the game ends. But honestly, after he scored that goal in that circumstance, nothing, who cares about the rest of the game? I know it's hard for me to say that given that this is the post-game show and it's about winning and losing, but just the humanity to be able to score and the emotion to be able to score in that instance. And I know that they wanted to win the game and they wanted to bring it home for Game 7 and everything else. And they're disappointed that they weren't able to do that. I get that. But man, just to step up in that moment with all that bubbling within you, right, is a remarkable achievement. It's a remarkable human achievement. And it was just, I was struck by that. I know I'm not doing a great job articulating myself, but
true.
I really was struck by him doing that in tonight's game.
Before you popped on and interrupted our PlayNow game recap, we were talking about that. I mean, it's just like this, like movies, are based on stuff like this, right? Like you mentioned Brett Favre. I mean, that's a very famous example of how
I'm not sure.
Marty St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think it was Kenny who tweeted out that Mason Marchment and Scheifele had a conversation after the game. Mason Marchment's dad, of course, was a former Winnipeg Jet. Brian Marchment, right? He was with the San Jose Sharks organization. So he lost his dad a couple years ago, right? So that Mason Marchment had all the feels, right? Like Drew's right. Like, I mean, it absolutely breaks your heart, first and foremost, that Mark Scheifele lost his dad, but then it breaks your heart again that he's in the penalty box. And I was saying to Dave right before we popped on and went live, like, you don't want any Jet to be in the penalty box because that's a horrible feeling, but it was especially horrible because it was Mark. And obviously all of us, you saw Adam Lowry actually go into the penalty box.
I know, that was amazing.
Right? Like, and just as an aside, like Adam Lowry, he's one of the best captains in the league. I don't care what anybody says. This guy lives and breathes hockey, similar to Mark Scheifele. I just think he stepped up. He started off a little bit slow, I think, in the Blues series, but he just got better and better. I thought he was good again tonight.
I wonder if I was wondering,
you'd like a little bit more offense from him, Dave, but I just thought that was really classy, him going over there and recognizing the enormity of the moment, right?
Well, and one thing I noticed, especially even in the pregame, they all have their rituals, right? And Scheifele's a big ritual guy, and you always see him in the pregame. He always goes up to Dylan Sandberg, and they always do these little things. But I had never seen him do that thing with Lowry, where he kind of did the over his the C, and then Lowry outlines the A. I just thought it was an interesting. That was in the pregame, I should mention, of course, before they came out. I just thought that was curious. But yeah, I agree with you, Ezzy. I thought it was really classy of Adam Lowry to go into the penalty box to embrace Mark Scheifele, and because I was sitting there going, again, if the Jets lose, okay, they lose, but you don't want to see them lose with Mark Scheifele in the penalty box. And again, nobody's blaming Mark Scheifele for this loss because. Right. Especially because I would have said that it was probably a bad handoff with, 20 seconds to go in a game to try and make that play. The Jets, I just thought you'd try and get it deep. We haven't gotten there yet, Drew. We'll still get to that when we do the rest of the game recap, of course. But, Mark Scheifele did what was the only thing basically left for him to do, which was to try and to strip Ezzy's boy Sam Steele of the puck late with about 14 and a half seconds to go in the game. So, but, you just kind of wanted to see them not get that goal with Mark Scheifele in the penalty box based on everything. But again, it's not we're not blaming Mark Scheifele because, of course, he was doing what he could have done to get back. And, as and I were talking about it, do you have an opinion? Would you have preferred I don't think we actually got there, Ezzy, but would you have preferred a penalty shot or do you think a penalty is the more preferable option there?
I would take Connor Hellebuyck against Sam Steele on a penalty shot situation.
Yeah. Me too.
I don't think, that the refs were going to call a penalty shot there, but I think I'd rather have that be this. I think if I had to choose one, look, the Jets did a pretty good job trying to kill that penalty. I mean, it wasn't until the end of it, which has sort of been the story of their penalty kill a little bit, is that, that Dallas was able to succeed. I mean, the Jets did a pretty good job on that PK until they didn't. Right. I think that I would take my chances with Connor Hellebuyck against Sam Steele, but I don't expect any official, to call that a penalty shot in that instance, right?
Well, and you also have to factor in the Jets are down to 5D at that point.
Sure.
Right. So if
they're running on fumes, I mean, we're gonna find out. Whenever.
And I'm very curious about that. Let me tell you that.
We're gonna find out that Scheifele, that Ehlers has still got a broken foot, and Velarde's playing without a kidney, and Morrissey's actually got a bionic leg of some sort, and everything, the litany of injuries, and I mean they're legitimate. And Lowry's probably got a bum shoulder. I mean, the injuries are always a boatload, and it's always a testament to the. I mean, I'm going to use the word insane pain threshold that these players.
Say hockey players are tough.
But yeah, I mean they're beyond tough. I mean, and again, they're wired differently than the rest of us are. So that explains why they can go out there, and adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I'm sure we've all in our lives had an instance where you get some adrenaline flowing for whatever reason. That's obviously not the same as being a professional athlete, but when you feel that adrenaline naturally be released in your body, you, me, us, anybody, we feel like you can lift a car over your head, and we're just a bunch of schlubs at home, never mind a professional athlete doing what they do. So the litany of injuries is going to be long. I don't know if you guys have mentioned this, but there's something appropriate about Thomas Harley, number 55, scoring the game-winning goal. I don't know what it is.
I didn't think about that.
I don't know what it is, but there's something very apropos about it.
Thomas Harley's going to be in the Norris conversation one day.
He's a fantastic.
He's like, I don't want to say I called it, but earlier this season, before he was named to the Four Nations tournament, I just like the guy he's only 23 years old. We talked to Mike Heika about him earlier today, right? He spent a couple of years with the Texas Stars in the AHL. Like, he's only 23 years old. Like I just said, like he's only going to get better. And like, again, that's why I think, to Drew's point earlier, you have to keep things in perspective here. The Jets took the Stars to overtime in Game 6. This series almost came back to Winnipeg for Game 7. This Dallas Stars team could easily win the Stanley Cup this year. They're obviously going to have to get through Edmonton, but let's not forget that, Mikko Rantanen, Matt Duchene, Tyler Seguin, Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, like I can go on here, but this is a good team. Like I obviously was hoping the Jets would win tonight and bring it back to Winnipeg for Game 7, but like, let's also take our hats off. I'll keep my hat on though, but let's take our hats off to the Stars.
Inside, you should take your hat off. It's good. It's gauche to wear a hat indoors, okay, as we've talked about before on the show. But if you take these 6 games,
there you go.
Thank you. You take these 6 games and you play them 100 times. Is it, maybe 55-45? I mean, in terms of for one team versus the other. I mean, we're talking 2 very evenly matched teams.
For sure.
2 very good hockey teams that did battle, and one team wins 4 games to 2. I mean, a lot of this was coin flips. It was bounces. It wasn't one-sided. It wasn't dominant. It wasn't, oh my gosh, look how far the Winnipeg Jets are from being at the same caliber as the Dallas Stars or the same caliber as another team. It wasn't the Jets against Vegas. It wasn't the Jets against Colorado where it turned out to be men versus boys. This series could have gone anyway. And the Jets, it sucks that you lose, but there's, it's sports. It's hockey. It's a bad bounce here, a bad bounce there, an untimely injury here, a bad trade that makes Mikko Rantanen available. I mean, think about that. If Colorado...
Stars don't win the series without Mikko Rantanen.
Come on. Colorado gives the guy away for whatever reason. Carolina, takes a swing at him. They can't keep him.
Let's be honest, Drew. They effed that up.
Well, sure. I mean, I don't know. I like the aggressiveness. I like the attempt to go after it, but you sort of want some more assurances involved. He falls in Dallas's lap. Dallas says, "Thank you very much."
By the way, that Carolina Dallas final is going to be fantastic.
Well, it might be that. It certainly might be that. But
Mikko's revenge, they're going to call it.
Well, if Mikko Rantanen doesn't come to Dallas late in the year, the Jets win this series. Now, circumstances happened that he got to Dallas.
I'm not sure, by the way, that Dallas beats Colorado without Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, probably not. That's why you don't give away superstars. Chris McFarland, the Dallas Star, the Colorado GM, they're all saying the right thing. Frankly, he gave away a superstar. Yeah, he got some nice
Marty Necas is a good player, but he's not Mikko Rantanen.
No, he's not. He's not Mikko Rantanen. You don't give away, a top 10 player in this league. Dallas doesn't have to apologize for their good fortune, just like the Jets. How many times have we said in the course of the regular season or the course of a game where Connor Hellebuyck would steal a game or play great, and you'd say, well, the Jets don't have to apologize for having a great goalie.
Right. That's fair.
So the Dallas Stars don't have to apologize for their fortuitous timing and for their fortuitous luck and for the fact that Mitch, had it not been for, if Mitch Marner, waives his no move clause, maybe Mikko Rantanen ends up in Toronto instead of in Dallas. The butterfly effect is always a significant one. The point is, and I know that
what is the point?
I'm honestly not entirely sure. I got a little bit of I'm at the
yips
buffet
right now.
It's okay. I'm sure you had a little. I'm sure you had a few glasses of Manischewitz at the party.
There might have been some scotch. I had a couple of scotches, but that's okay.
Wow.
I'm trying to keep it together as much as I can. Again, it's a damn close series. The outcome isn't exactly what you want, or isn't what the Jets fans want, but it's pretty good season. Pretty good season is what I would say.
I would say a lot better than that.
I'm downplaying it, but
no, I know you are, Drew.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, Dave always says this, right? It's a results business, a results-based business, I should say.
Yeah.
And this Jets team wanted to win the Stanley Cup, period. So they didn't complete their goal, right, Dave?
Yeah.
But when you look at the totality of what this team accomplished, both in the regular season and in the playoffs, I think if you're a Jets fan, like Drew said, you have a lot of great memories from this season.
You do. And that's really what I'm going to remember, Ezzy. That is exactly what I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember almost more than the 17-18 season. I remember Game 7 in Nashville in 17-18. I remember Ryan Hartman. I think he got 5. Did he have 5 goals or 5 points against the Jets just after he was acquired at the trade deadline by the Predators? I think it was, for whatever reason, I remember that, even though it happened against the Jets. And, I remember the roar when the Jets scored those 2 goals really quick in one of the playoff games, maybe game 4 at home. Bufflin and Trouba, did they go sort of bang, bang, if I recall correctly, in 17-18?
Your memory with this kind of stuff is good, Drew. So we're going to, even if you've
especially for a guy that's had a few scotches.
The memories, I think, are going to be significant for this year, is all I'm saying. And more than most recent years. I don't remember much from the Vegas year or the most recent one a couple of years ago, or the Colorado one. This year had some pretty good memories. I don't know if it's because my kids are older and they're going to be able to remember it with me and we watched it together, or what the reason is. I'm not drunk. I'm completely sober. I've had a couple drinks.
I don't know about completely sober, but
well, no, I'm perfectly sober. I would not ever. I was not in a position where I was going to drink that much. I am feeling wistful, admittedly, but I just do.
Drew, is that a bottle I see in front of you there?
Just my Fireball. I got my Fireball over here, courtesy our friends at Seagram's.
Well, but I think there's, and again, we're going to have plenty of time to reminisce, to look back, to break down, to analyze all the things that went on. There's a lot of, as I said, you're not getting rid of us that easily. We've done 95 of these shows, but we've still got quite a few of the Illegal Curve hockey shows to do. So that is not going anywhere. So
to your point, Dave, that's a good reminder, because the post-game shows are done. There's not going to be any more Jets games this year. So the post-game show will be done. We'll be off until October, when the regular season in the 25-26
I was going to talk to you guys about that. I think we should start doing the pregame shows. So
we're not
preseason.
No, we're not doing preseason. We don't do preseason. But the Legal Curve hockey show, that's going to continue unabated. We do that all the way through the middle of July. So even though you're not going to be able to join us as many times per week, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m., we're still here. We're not going anywhere. We'll be here in, today's Saturday. So we'll be here next Saturday.
And Drew, don't forget about the Moose end of season roundtable, which some people thought wasn't happening this year. But Dave has reliably informed us that there will be a Moose end of season roundtable. So you can definitely look forward to that as well. In addition to Dave's famous
summer series.
IC summer series.
That's usually
in August.
Summer series.
Yeah, that's true. That will be taking place as well. So we'll be having conversations with a variety of players, whether they're they're usually all prospects in some capacity. So I'll try and be a little more regular with that. That'll be in August, when we are in it's called the dog days of summer, but I don't want to get there just yet, right? As we got still lots of season to talk about.
Dave M at the Barlow family cottage in Ontario.
One-on-one. Dave gets personal invites. Dave and Jacob Julie. Dave, it's a new show. Dave and Jacob Julie in cars together.
Yes, I'm actually flying to Rimouski immediately to go cover the Memorial Cup. But no, I mean, look, there's still, it's kind of funny. It's almost like it's unfortunate that we're not still talking about the game, right, boys? Because we've gone right from, analysis of the game. And I know, like I said, everybody watched the game, so we don't have to if we don't want to. But there's just, in third period, which was where kind of Ezzy and I ended, Drew, we have to mention the save that Connor Hellebuyck made. I know Ezzy mentioned it when I was asking about some things that stood out to him. But you got to think about the missed opportunity by Mason Appleton. Yep. Everybody's like, what a save by Jake Ottinger. I'm like, what a save. He shot it into him.
Yeah.
Like, he had the whole net. He just missed he missed it. So that one is going to be haunting Mason Appleton all the way back to Wisconsin. So I don't know that his agent is going to be able to get that $5 million he wants that he was thinking about asking for, but as a UFA. But there's that one. And then, of course, the save that Connor Hellebuyck made. Who did he make it on again, Ezzy? Was it on Granlund? No.
Yeah, it was on Granlund.
Yep. Granlund, yeah. And that was an incredible save by Connor Hellebuyck. So some just unbelievable saves. And it did seem appropriate that we were getting an overtime in this game. I don't know if anyone picked Thomas Harley for the ICOT pool.
Yeah.
Drew.
I haven't looked. I don't know.
I will say there were a lot of entries. I said, I knew, because as he texted me, he's like, what? No ICOT pool. I'm like, of course. I'm just getting out the original tweet about having folks join us here on the Illegal Curve postgame show. I'll get the ICOT pool one.
And that's another thing that's going to continue after this round. The good folks at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club are going to continue the ICOT pool. It's like Drew said, Dave, you can't get rid of Illegal Curve. We're just going to keep coming back no matter what happens.
Yeah, that's very true. We are. You haven't got rid of us over all these years yet, and you're not going to get rid of us anytime soon. To that point.
No, and make sure, of course, while you're doing that, you smash that like button, you hit the subscribe button, which if you're chatting in this show means you have already become a subscriber, and no unsubscribing. Once you've subscribed, I don't want to hear about anyone unsubscribing. So, but Dave's I will say,
you've actually said it, so you can't unsubscribe.
Yeah, you can never. But I gotta say, like, honestly, I'm not joking. In the last little bit, we've had so many additions to the Illegal Curve family. So we appreciate all of you joining us here after every Jets game, and of course, every Saturday morning, 9 to 11. And as he teased, those special edition shows will have some We'll have some Moose stuff still. We're still going to have lots on our YouTube channel, so don't worry about that. And of course, the exit meetings, whenever that is with the players, which I'm going to guess either Monday or Tuesday, whenever we'll have that covered in its entirety as well all day.
Yeah. Have you guys taken a commercial break yet?
We have not.
Okay, so why don't we take a commercial break? We'll come back. Once we get that done, then we can talk more about the Jets and really whatever else we're hanging around. It's a much more casual, laissez-faire edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show.
After the commercial break, Drew's going to have a cigar in his mouth.
Much more to come. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show.
We want to thank you for not betting with PlayNow and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with PlayNow, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show.
It doesn't really work when you're supposed to be talking to have it in your mouth.
I know, it's hard to...
You could have just been a fat cat holding it in your hands.
It
Is
was
an actual
my hands
cigar
there.
or
How
like a
about that?
cigar prop?
Yeah, no, it's a real cigar.
Cuban?
Yes, in fact, it is a Cuban cigar.
I remember like...
Are you sure it wasn't made by Venezuelans?
I'm positive. It's authentic. It's not a Producto de Peru either. I think it's Sacramento Senior didn't screw me.
20 years ago, I went
Cuban
to...
cigars.
No, I was just going to mention, like 20 years ago, I went to Dominican Republic with my sister. And I remember a guy, like I'd never been to Dominican Republic before. And so I remember a guy came up to me like with like offering me a box of cigars. He's like, "Oh yeah, these are the best. These are Cuban." And I remember like, I think it cost like $50 or something. I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm getting real Cuban cigars for $50. Like I was so excited. I remember getting back to Winnipeg, and then like a couple days later, like I like lit one up and like they were just peeling off and like they were just the shittiest cigars ever. Yeah, so that's why you go with real Cubans.
I mean, I honestly don't know how long this has been in my house for. I am not a cigar smoker. It just so happens that you mentioned that you were going to come back, and I was going to have a cigar in my hand, and they are in the room next to me, so I grabbed it because I thought it'd be funny.
Oh, that's your cigar room. That's
right. I went into my humidor, which is next to my to my wine closet, next to my cedar chest and everything else, and got all my different products out. But I'm not really going to smoke this because I don't really smoke cigars.
Well, we don't condone that, of course, unless it's a sponsor. Then we love cigars.
That's right. If Romeo y Julieta, a cigar company, wants to sponsor us, then just get in touch with us at this point in time. I thought it would be again, as you can see, we're a free flowing edition of the Illegal Curve post game show as we're looking back at the season that was for the Winnipeg Jets, talking about tonight's game. I do want to make mention of our sponsors, because if it wasn't for them, none of this is possible. I mean, it is possible, but it's the sponsors are really.
If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to pay my mortgage.
They are doing an important thing. We want to keep Ezzy off the street. That's what we want to do. We want Ezzy off the street. I got to say, though, Ezzy, by the way, before I shout out the sponsors, my dad really liked when Dave said this morning that he was just going to be medium. He's not going to be big daddy. He's going to be medium daddy. My dad then really liked when I said that he's going to be loose skin daddy. My dad thought that was very funny.
Sheldon's like, Ozempic. There's no way Ezzy's losing weight. I just saw him scarfing down a double cheeseburger.
In any event, our sponsors, they make this possible. Our friends at City Place, they texted me. Melissa, who I've been dealing with at City Place, who's terrific. She texted me when the game ended and said, obviously we're not going to do a game 7, but it's been a great season for us at City Place, and we thank them, of course, so much for their continued support, and we look forward to being back there in October, where we do those fun lunchtime shows, and then we do the pregame shows during the playoffs and all sorts of things. So our friends at City Place, they're great sponsors of ours. I have to mention Boston Pizza. We've had so many great watch parties. It was funny. I was talking. Who was I talking to? I was talking to my cousin yesterday, and my cousin is in town for the 50th anniversary celebrations, and I was talking to her and her partner, and they're not big hockey fans, so they were asking me about the show, and I was telling them, about all these people who watch us on a regular basis, almost 500 of you right now. And, and then I was explaining that it's gone more than just people on a screen or people in a chat, and that we can, when we've had the opportunity to get together with so many of you, and we do that at Boston Pizza, of course, and some of you come to City Place and everything else, and we always run into random people throughout our travels in the city, but that this community is developed is really special. And of course, our friends at Boston Pizza, when we do the watch parties, they play a key role in that. So that I wanted to make mention, and just again, it's sort of mind-boggling a little bit. And I'm sure you guys can echo this, and I'll let you speak on it as well.
Let us speak. Isn't that nice of you?
Yeah, I know. That this community is developed, that there's an opportunity where all of you are watching us, and then we get together and we get to watch Jets games together, and it's just a fun way of meeting people in life and sort of taking your hockey fandom to another level. And it's really special that we get to, when the times are that we, they're special when we get to do the show and we're all on our screens, and it's special when we get to do the shows in person. And so we appreciate all of your support and all of the support of our sponsors, especially, like I said, when we get together at Boston Pizza. Karen, you're coming to Winnipeg in March. Well, we're hoping that we'll do a watch party, and we'll make sure that we get it all together. If you're in the chat, and we always want an opportunity to be able to meet you in person.
Where's Karen from? We got to find out where she's from, though.
Know where she's from. Maybe she'll tell us in the chat.
Steinbach.
Wherever she's tentatively coming from. And I know, Dave, this is a big one for you. Again, the transition. It's been a number of years now, of course, when we were on radio, and radio is much more. You don't get to see each other. You just hear a voice and everything else. Now we've been on this platform ever since, and how much of an impact that's made on the show, how much of an improvement it's made to the show, and how much it's really just changed the dynamics of doing this show on a regular basis.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, I honestly, I'm not joking when I say this. I talk about it at least once a week. People will ask me, it'll come up in conversations with other media folk, and when we're watching Jets practice or whatever. And I always say, like, the best thing that ever happened to us was the switch over to this format. I don't revel in it because it meant other folks lost their jobs and a lot of folks never came back into radio, which according to Michael Remus is dead. But the point is,
I think he single-handedly killed it, in fact.
Yes, exactly. But the point is that for us personally, because we're an independent group within the framework of 1290, I mean, as everyone remembers, on that I think it was a Tuesday when Bell Media decided to kill the radio here in Winnipeg, that the three of us got together. We had a conversation, and I said, we are not missing a show. We are not missing our Saturday show. We're going to do our show on Saturday. Now, how we figured that out, I got to give Drew credit. He kind of got that ball rolling and got us over to Zoom, and then we eventually got to this format. But we were determined not to miss a show. Of course, added the post-game show, which it's added a lot of fun, a lot more work, but it's a lot more fun, of course, doing these as well. But yeah, no, it's been fantastic, and it's such a better way to interact, because when we used to sit in this dingy, gross studio on Pembina, which is what it was.
God, it was awful.
Yeah, it was. I mean, again, like I said, the three of us always managed to have a good time together, but it wasn't the same way because we didn't have the interaction with the group, and we didn't have the community, as Drew just touched on, with all of you who have embraced this format with us. So we were, again, we were the first ones who made this transition to YouTube to kind of check it out and try it. And sure enough, it's been phenomenal. And we passed 8,000 subs. Like, remember everything fell into place that year. And I'm not trying to not wax too poetically here, go on too long, but it was just bizarre because YouTube was the one social media we never used, right, boys? Like, we used Twitter, we used Instagram, we used Facebook to kind of share the message of, Illegal Curve and the news that we were covering, Jets and Moose related, even the Winnipeg Ice when we used to cover them. But we never used YouTube. It didn't make sense for us because we were a radio show. Why would we need to do video? And it just so happened that during the COVID
hold on,
year,
Dave, we did use it for one thing.
Yeah,
that's actually, hold on. So you're right. As he's right. Yeah. We did use it. And what we did use it for was to bring illegalcurve.com back from the dead, because we were taking a little bit of a break from the website. Because everybody
before the Jets were back, folks.
This is like 2009. Let's go back to the
By the way, this will all be in our documentary, The Sexiest Men Alive.
Before or after we robbed banks?
Yeah, I was going to say sexiest men in Winnipeg, right, Ezzy? But no. So we had kind of taken a break, and then Ezzy and I were at my cousin Rich's, who of course was one of the original founders of IC. He doesn't really need that credit, but he of course was one of the co-founders with Ezzy and Drew. But when we were sitting in there, we were watching. It was a winter classic, right, Ezzy? And in Calgary,
Heritage
Classic in Calgary, and it was Metric, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it was.
And
great band.
And during during this, which I actually like Metric, so I was watching it, and one guy sacked his friend, and I thought it was hilarious. So I threw that on our YouTube channel. And then, as an aside from that part of the story, somehow we ended up getting the sacker and the sackee both on the 1290 show, and we had the most inane conversation with them. I don't know if I was on that show, but
one of the guys added me on Facebook. That's how it started, right?
The weird part is he added you on Facebook last week.
This is what was this back? This was back in 2012? Like this was
no. It was like 2009.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize. No, but we were on was it Sports Radio 1290 at that point? Who knows? But we were at 1290. I remember that.
Yeah, it was 1290. It was Sports Radio 1290, I think.
Yeah, and so the guy added me on Facebook, and that's the funny. Well, the other thing too, Dave, that you forgot is back then. Not only did we not use the YouTube channel, it wasn't as big as it is now. Like that video ended up having something like 20,000 views, and we were like, we've gone viral. Like this is the craziest thing ever. Like we're gonna break YouTube records. But the funniest thing is when we had them on, and the guys were so fun, and like they played along with us.
Yeah.
And they were just explaining. He's like, yeah, like we were just at the game, and I thought, I'd just go up to my friend and sack him. Like it was back in the day before we did the show on YouTube. It was definitely a funny moment for us.
I would like to say we've matured in all those years, but I don't think we have.
No, we'd have no. In fact, if you recall, I think wasn't it last year where we had the guy on who was like cracking his neck during the Detroit game? Yeah, so that was last year. So no, and he was well into his cups, if I recall correctly. He was at He was at Bar Italia. Yeah, Bar Italia. But the best was because someone on the show, we were talking about him, someone who watched the show talking about our community, that they were cousins with him. And then next thing I know, I'm getting DMs saying we can have him on the show. But anyways, getting back to what happened. So
by the way, that's the only thing I remember from last year. You're talking about indelible memories. The only thing I can remember from last year for the Winnipeg Jets was the guy who cracked his neck violently as the broadcast went to commercial.
There you go. But so this was the only medium that we didn't really use in any great capacity, other than obviously to put the Sacker and Saki thing from 2009. But so then it just so happened that was during the COVID year where the Jets were sending us the videos. So I was like, well, I may as well just upload them to our YouTube channel. Built it slowly. It went up from like 125 to, I think I was at around 800. And then that's when we got the word about 1290. And then we quickly got a big jump. I think we went up to like 12 or 1400 for the bunch of folks who were going to join us on this new endeavor called the Illegal Curve Hockey Show on YouTube. And, but again, like I said, the other thing that was great is so many new sponsors. We got a bunch of new folks who wanted to support our channel and support what we do on the website and bring you Jets and Moose news on a daily basis. So we appreciated that. And of course, like I said, that's a long way of getting to the fact that we've now grown the channel to well over 8,000 and we'll hopefully get to 10,000 soon enough.
Yeah, there you go. And the other sponsors, of course, that I was getting through the list are, some of them have been with us from day one. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, of course, they've been with us and, lockstep for so many years. So big thanks to them and all the great things that they do in the community. PlayNow, they came aboard this year as our title sponsor. And, we can't say enough about PlayNow and their impact on this show and everything else that they've done and really committed to what they are, which is, they're the safe, local, legal gambling site. And so good on them for supporting us, a local, sports show. And they do it to a lot of the different broadcasts. So kudos to them and their commitment to the community, because that's very important. Seagram's, they've been with us for a while, of course. The Seagram Shot of the Game is a fixture on the post-game show. And our friends at the Rady JCC Sports Dinner. We'll be there in June. I know that they were, they were obviously going to figure out a way to do it, but they had a little bit of a concern that what if there's a conflict between a Jets playoff game and the Rady dinner? Well, they don't have to worry about that. They would have, of course, they probably played the game on the big screens while everything else was going on at the dinner, because they know where they know the level of support and the passion in this community. So we say thank you to the Rady JCC. We'll be there at the sports dinner with Vikings legends Chris Carter and John Randall. That's coming up next month. I think that'll be the next time we actually talk, the three of us, to each other after, well, we just go incommunicado for the next little while, except for on Saturday mornings.
Yeah. And I just want to, sorry, Drew, sorry to jump in here. This is a really nice comment from our friend Coffee and TV. We recently met him. Legal Curve Rules. My uncle loved the show. He passed away last year. He always loved to talk about your show. I hope you guys keep doing this year for years to come. So, and that's the plan, right? Until I get replaced by Connor Hrabchuk, which might happen sooner than you think.
Yeah.
But Dave and Drew will keep the show. No, I'm obviously joking, but appreciate that comment.
Yeah, that's very nice. And, it's little things like that. People that, we've had, relatives of players on the Jets who say they tune in. Was it Neil Pionk's cousin or brother you met, Dave, or somebody like that recently?
No. His one of the
Massimo's buddies with Aaron Pionk.
No. It's just that
Massimo knows Neil Pionk's brother.
No, I'm not saying that, but that's not how I got the story though. Is that I'm saying that one of the bunch of the guys who play on there's a couple of guys from Winnipeg who play with the Bulldogs, which is as his point, where Neil Pionk's younger brother is playing. I think it's Aaron. And so one of the dads said that he's friends with Neil Pionk's dad, and he's a big fan of the show.
Yeah.
So shout out to Neil Pionk's dad.
Yeah. So just little things like that are pretty cool. I mean, they are pretty cool, and they're pretty nice.
We get a lot of my dad's a fan of your show, right? Like, remember the girls that came up to a Boston Pizza? Like my dad's a big fan of the show.
Yeah.
No, we get a lot of that. We're dads ourselves, so
it's true. We've earned being old, washed up men. So there's an accomplishment in that. Yeah. There's a banner, in that. To some.
Well, and the other thing also is I like here I've got this comment up right now. It's Great Show Boys signed a Minnesota fan. That's the other thing I like. I like that. One of the things. Remember again when we used to do the 3 hours of Saturday morning show, which was a smidge much, but when we used to do that was it was more of a first half Jets show, second half was more of a general NHL show.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot more connectivity to the general NHL. Now we still do when we have, as we had Mike Hike on, we still have all of those great relationships we formed over the last 16 or 17 or 18 years. But the fact of the matter is that, it's still nice when you appeal to, I remember there was an Oilers fan on the show this morning, or maybe it was the last post-game show. But, I like that others will come and check us out and enjoy. Obviously, if you don't care about the Jets, it's fine. But like, people like our shtick apparently, and they like the cut of our jib. As
say, people like our hockey shtick. Is that what you said?
Or is it our illegal curve hockey shtick? Is what he said at that point.
Basically,
yeah. And this has been a fun series. I got to shout out to we've had a lot of Dallas Stars fans tuning in, and in the chat and things like that, and they've been respectful and they've enjoyed all the banter and things of that nature, the back and forth. And again, I know you guys talked about it earlier, but just the show of graciousness and class by the Dallas Stars fans today is really something that. You see it. You've seen it lately in the NFL. I remember when Hamlin for the Buffalo Bills had suffered his cardiac arrest on the field. Damar Hamlin, and he, and somebody, I don't know who it was, found out what charity he supported. I think it was a literacy campaign, if I recall correctly. And sports fans all over, football fans, Bills fans, everybody donated millions of dollars and helped raise money, gave their money to help this athlete do that sort of thing. And today, with what the Dallas Stars fans did, donating 55 for 55, it's just, it's, again, so much in the world is negative, and we're overwhelmed, thanks to, I would argue, traditional media that only focus on the negative and the lousy stories, and the sky is falling, and this is terrible, and that is terrible, and you shouldn't ever leave your house because you're going to get stabbed as soon as you get fresh air. All the negativity is more at the forefront than anything, than the positives. So when you see something that's organically a positive, like we saw today from Dallas Stars fans, and then hockey fans around the NHL, and then, of course, Winnipeg Jets fans did their part as well. And it comes organically and it comes naturally, and it's just people, humans, trying to do a very nice little human thing for another human who is suffering right now. You know what? We don't get enough of those in front of us, so it's really nice when you can see something like that we saw today, and it helps to give a bit of a balm for the disappointment of the Winnipeg Jets loss. And I'm certain that the Scheifele family, and I don't intend to speak for them because I have no authority to do so, but I'm certain, just based on the humanity of it all, they are touched by that kind of gesture, just like anybody would be. That you see something like that and you see people who are going to, I don't know you, but I'm going to try and do a little thing to help you out. You've provided me some entertainment. You've provided me some enjoyment. You're, even though you're an opponent of the team that I prefer to root for, I can overlook that. And so today was a good day. A little bit simple, but it was a good day regardless of the result, just because I think we all got a little bit more human and had a nice reminder about what humanity is ultimately at its core, is being there for one another and helping out one another. And I just think that's a real good thing today, is seeing that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it started off, I think we got the news, Dave, it was right around kind of 11 in the morning, or maybe a little bit later, around noon.
Like 10 minutes after the show ended. 15 minutes.
Yeah. So obviously, I was at a kid's birthday party, and everybody was talking about it, and everybody was just said the same thing. Obviously horrible. It would be horrible regardless of when it happened, but especially the day of Game 6, right? So yeah, like the Jets lose the game, but like Drew said, I mean, we're most likely going to remember Scheifele scoring the day after his dad died, as opposed to them losing the game. So,
well, here's the numbers just came out. This is courtesy of an article on sportsnet.ca. Krista's from True North Sports and Entertainment, who we know Krista, of course, very well. More than $30,000 has been raised today in $55 donations. So increments of $55.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I'm sure that, sure
and
not
that's, by the way, that's just True North. That
that's
doesn't,
just the True North Foundation.
That's not the Kid Sport one.
That's not the Kid Sport one. Exactly right. So that's just the True North Foundation.
That's insane. That honestly, that's just incredible. That's an incredible number.
That like people all over the hockey world have raised $30,000 in donations towards.
And that's just in hours, right? Like that's not even 24 hours. That's
it's 12 hours.
Whatever. Exactly. So
12 hours.
that number is only going to go up.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. And that doesn't even include the Kid Sport ones. And I don't know what the number for that is, but I mean, that's making,
well, it's hundreds of people. That's hundreds, it's hundreds and thousands of people who are making, who, again, we don't know what their capacity is, but are making an effort to have an impact, right? So whether you donated $10 or $20 or $55 or more, for everyone to just try and do that, to have some sort of impact, it's such a testament to the hockey community. And, so often we're told about how brutal the community is and how bad it is and blah, blah, blah. And, again, like the wet blankets who want to just complain about everything and pillory everything. To me, this is like what is so good about people and what's so good about this community. And again, we've just gone on for probably half an hour about what's so good about our community, our specific Illegal Curve family here that, everyone here is a part of. And again, like I said, like that in and of itself is a great one. And like any family, we have disagreements, whether it's the three of us or people in the chat. But for the most part,
we're dysfunctional here. There's no doubt about it here.
Yeah, absolutely. But
part of our
appeal
is being dysfunctional.
Yeah. But for this, again, like I said, I just think too often the hockey community is pilloried with negativity, and there's a lot of people who just want to crap on everything. They're just, again, and unfortunately, they've got big community, well, not community, but big platforms. Thank you. There's the word, Drew. They've got big platforms that allow them to stick their stupid thoughts out there onto the into the ether, and then people pick up on it. And again, like I try and say, like the a lot of that crap is BS anyways. Like I don't even believe that it's real, but especially when I see some of these things that people say. But again, I'm not saying it's all positive, but I just think that there's some people who just want to embrace the negative. And this to me is folks embracing the positive, and it's just a real great thing to see in face of such tragedy.
Yeah, that $30,000 is going to make a tangible difference. The True North Youth Foundation will put it to good use. It's going to
help kids in the community,
kids who can't otherwise afford to do whatever it is in our community. So, again, these are little things, small things, and they're good things.
Yep.
And it's people. If you donated $55, great. If you donated $5.55, great. If you donated 55 cents, great. You made an effort. You tried to be a little bit more human, and you tried to help somebody out on a day they needed it. And we should all do that every day, 365 days a year. We forget about it sometimes because we're so busy with everything else. But today, it happened, and I'm glad to see it. And that the result of the game, Jets lost. Yeah. Okay. But I think everybody else, the community, the city, everybody wins ultimately with tonight's result.
Well said, Drew.
A final thought from you, if you have one?
Yeah. Look, we've already touched on this. We're approaching 2 hours. Pretty impressive here, guys.
Did we already do a 2-hour show today?
We did. Yeah. It was about how many hours ago was that? About 15 hours ago now.
Yeah, and so I'll try to make it brief here, if I can. But look, it's a disappointing loss. The Jets don't accomplish their ultimate goal here. They got close. So obviously, the finish of tonight's game, no pun intended.
I was going to say, was that a pun?
Yeah, was not ideal. But I really do believe. First off, I just want to say this was a fun season to be a part of. Yeah. We've been doing this show, a lot of people know, for 16 years, which is every time I say that with a lot of pride, because that's over a decade and a half that we've been doing this, even more so, even longer. It's been 18 years, like that high number. So we've been doing that for 18 years. So, but I just want to say this year particularly has been a lot of fun. The 15-1 start, the Jets winning the President's Trophy, the first round, the Manitoba Miracle, this series versus Dallas. So I just want to get that in there, that I honestly feel like, I'm lucky to do this show with Drew and Dave, and I'm lucky to talk about the Jets, and meet all these awesome people that we see in the chat. Or some people, we met Adam at I forget Adam's last name, but he came up to us and said, I've been watching your guys' show for years, and he says, once in a while he pops in the chat. I think we posted his comment a few games ago, but I echo what Drew said and what Dave said. Like, the chat has just added this awesome dimension to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. So I just wanted to say that we're 95 games in, and we were hoping for game 96, but it's been a lot of fun. But I still think this year has been a success for the Jets. They don't win the cup, but I do think they took a step forward and they grew as a group. So that's my final thought.
Beautifully well said.
Drew, are you going to give the people what they want, though?
What is it that they want? Is it a Manuk Moose Minute?
No. No, they're going to get a couple hours of Manuk Moose when we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Manitoba Moose in Moose hockey here in Manitoba.
What is it that they want, though? I don't know what the people want.
Well, it's funny. I went back that when I said I was watching an old clip because I was deleting stuff off my phone.
Oh, I know what they want.
Oh yeah,
I can't. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't. It's not something that I can just pull out. It happens organically. It happens naturally. I can't just all of a sudden go like this and have it count for something. And if it's done on demand, it doesn't count just the same. I appreciate that everybody wants to see it.
When Drew was saying people are going to remember about the season, the 15-1 start, the President's Trophy, the Manitoba Miracle, the Jazz Hands.
That's what Drew's Jazz Hands said. They want me, Drew.
Well, there you go. How about one last Jazz Hands for the 2024-2025 Winnipeg Jets season? There you go. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't expect Jazz Hands to be a thing next year, but stranger things have happened nonetheless. We thank all of you so much. We really do. We've said it, throughout the course of this broadcast, which has been a different one than normal, but we definitely appreciate it and say it and love it all and love you all just the same. We'll be back Saturday morning, 9 a.m. for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll do a deep dive into the Winnipeg Jets like we always do. So we're looking forward to being there on Saturday. Keep it locked to illegalcurve.com. Keep it locked to our YouTube channel. There's going to be end-of-season media availabilities at some point this week. The only place you're going to be able to see those end-of-season media availabilities uncut and with the raw video is going to be our YouTube channel.
Well, the Jets also, to be clear, let's be fair and balanced here, Drew. The Jets also do it as well. We'll have it up faster, though. We'll have it up faster.
There you go. We'll have it up before the Jets will. I wasn't trying to throw shade in this instance, but you know that you can keep it locked to our YouTube channel and keep it locked to illegalcurve.com for all your end-of-season Winnipeg Jets news. And, of course, that's true for all your Jets news all season long. So you know where to keep it locked to if you haven't already done so. Honestly, how many more times do I have to tell you? Smash the like button.
Do it anyways.
Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave us your feedback here, there, and everywhere. And tell your friends and tell your family the best place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. And again, on Saturday mornings is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. Big thanks to all of our sponsors. Big thanks to all of you. Big thanks to my brothers in arms, Dave Manuk and Ezra Ginsburg. For them both, for producer Tim, for photographer and videographer Colby Spence. It takes a village to raise Illegal Curve. You certainly are part of that village. I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Good night, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. And for one final time on the 24-25 season, this has been the Illegal Curve post-game show.